The courtroom doors slammed open so hard that everyone turned at once. And what happened next no one in that room would ever forget. The Millionaire's high-profile lawyer, sharp suit, silver watch, reputation worth millions, grabbed his briefcase, whispered something into his client's ear, and ran. Not walked. Ran. Gasps rippled through the packed courtroom as cameras flashed and reporters scrambled. The judge pounded the gavel. The opposing counsel smirked. And sitting alone at the defense table, stunned and pale, was the man everyone had already decided was guilty. But the real shock was still coming. Because the next person to step forward wasn't another attorney. It was the janitor. Before we continue, take a second, because this story will change the way you see strength, courage, and hidden potential. If you believe ordinary people can do extraordinary things, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard. His name was Daniel Reyes. 41 years old. Single father of an 8-year-old daughter named Lily. He worked the night shift cleaning the very courthouse where history was about to unfold. No one noticed janitors. That was the point. They moved silently, emptied trash cans, wiped fingerprints off polished wood, and disappeared before sunrise. Daniel had mastered invisibility. But he hadn't always been invisible. 15 years earlier, Daniel had been on track to become a lawyer himself. Top of his class, full scholarship, dreams bigger than his circumstances. Then life did what life sometimes does, it shattered everything at once. His wife died unexpectedly after giving birth to Lily. Grief swallowed him whole. Tuition bills piled up. He dropped out during his final year to work full-time. Just temporary, he told himself back then. Temporary became permanent. Until this trial. The defendant sitting alone at the table was Victor Langston, a tech millionaire accused of fraud and embezzlement. The media had already convicted him. Headlines screamed greed and betrayal. His own lawyer had just abandoned him mid-trial after explosive evidence surfaced that morning. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Langston, if your counsel has withdrawn, we will need to appoint representation." Victor's voice trembled. "Your Honor, I." And that's when Daniel stepped forward from the back of the courtroom, still holding a mop. "Your Honor," he said carefully, heart pounding so loudly he thought the whole room could hear it. "I'm not currently licensed, but I completed law school coursework. I never sat for the bar. However, I know this case." The courtroom erupted in laughter. The judge frowned. "Sir, this is highly irregular." Daniel swallowed. "I clean this courtroom every night. I've heard every argument. I've reviewed discarded drafts left in the trash. I know the evidence better than anyone here." The prosecutor scoffed. "With all due respect, Your Honor, this is absurd." It was absurd. But it was also desperate. Victor looked up at Daniel, eyes filled not with arrogance, but with fear. Real fear. "Please," Victor whispered. And in that whisper, Daniel heard something familiar. A man about to lose everything. The judge studied Daniel carefully. "You understand the risk. If you step into this role without a license, you cannot formally represent him. But you may assist him in presenting his own defense." It was a razor-thin technical allowance. Daniel nodded. "I understand." He set the mop aside. And walked to the defense table. The media went wild. "Millionaire defended by janitor," would be tomorrow's headline. But Daniel wasn't thinking about headlines. He was thinking about Lily. About the promises he made to her every night before bed. That no matter how hard life gets, you stand up. The prosecutor began dismantling Victor's case piece by piece. Emails, bank transfers, signed authorizations. It looked airtight. During a recess, Daniel leaned in. "You didn't authorize those transfers, did you?" Victor shook his head. "No, I trusted my CFO completely." Daniel's mind raced. He remembered something from the trash, a printed internal memo the previous lawyer had discarded. A discrepancy in timestamp logs. Something small. Something easy to miss. When court resumed, Daniel slid a note toward Victor. "Ask about server log time zones." Victor hesitated, then spoke. Under questioning, the company's IT director admitted the financial system logged transactions in Greenwich Mean Time, not local time. The prosecution's timeline, so convincing on screen, shifted by 7 hours. 7 hours that placed Victor on a live-streamed charity stage event during the alleged authorization. Murmurs filled the room. The prosecutor objected, flustered. The judge allowed further review. For the first time, doubt entered the courtroom. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Daniel sat at their tiny kitchen table surrounded by borrowed law books. He hadn't felt this alive in years. Fearful, but alive. "Daddy." Lily's sleepy voice echoed from the hallway. "Are you quitting your cleaning job?" He smiled gently. "No, sweetheart. I'm just helping someone." She walked over and hugged him. "You always help people." Her words hit him harder than any gavel. The next day in court, Daniel focused on something else he'd noticed over months of cleaning: the body language of witnesses. The CFO, Martin Hale, had testified with rehearsed precision. But Daniel remembered seeing him alone in the courtroom once, arguing on the phone, panicked. During cross-examination, Victor, guided quietly by Daniel, asked about offshore accounts tied to subsidiaries. Martin stiffened. Daniel slid another note. Press about personal bonuses. Under pressure, inconsistencies began to crack through Martin's polished demeanor. A bonus structure triggered by stock dips. Insurance clauses benefiting executives if the company suffered scandal. The courtroom atmosphere shifted from certainty to suspicion. By the fourth day, the narrative had transformed. This wasn't a greedy millionaire exploiting investors. This might be a boardroom betrayal. The prosecution tried to regain control, but each time Daniel spotted tiny fractures. A mismatched signature angle, a metadata detail, a procedural oversight. People started looking at him differently. Not as the janitor, as the strategist. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him. How does a janitor outmaneuver corporate attorneys? Daniel kept his answer simple. I listened. Inside the courtroom, something deeper unfolded. Victor wasn't a saint. He admitted under oath that he had been distracted, arrogant even. He had trusted blindly and ignored warning signs. But I did not steal, he said firmly. And somehow, because the defense wasn't polished or theatrical, because it came from a man who scrubbed floors at midnight, it felt honest. The jury deliberated for 16 hours. Daniel sat alone in the hallway, hands clasped, thinking about how strange life is. 15 years ago, he thought his dream had died. Sometimes dreams don't die. They wait. The jury returned. Not guilty on all criminal charges. The courtroom exploded in sound, shock, relief, outrage. Victor covered his face, overwhelmed. Reporters shouted questions. But the most powerful moment happened quietly. Victor turned to Daniel. You saved my life. Daniel shook his head. No. The truth did. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. Victor reinstated Daniel's law school tuition. Not as charity, but as partnership. You didn't defend me because I was rich, Victor said. You did it because it was right. Daniel passed the bar on his first attempt. But he didn't join a corporate firm. He started a small practice focused on defending workers, single parents, and people who couldn't afford elite attorneys. And every evening, he still picked Lily up from school himself. Years later, when asked about that infamous trial, Daniel would smile and say, I was just doing my job. But the truth was bigger than that. He showed the world something it desperately needed to remember, that your title does not define your value. Your paycheck does not measure your intelligence. And your lowest moment does not cancel your potential. The millionaire's lawyer fled when pressure hit. The janitor stayed. And sometimes, staying is the bravest thing you can do. If this story moved you, even a little, hit that like button so more people can hear it. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories about ordinary heroes doing extraordinary things. Because the next janitor, the next single parent, the next quiet dreamer, might just be one decision away from changing the world. And maybe, so are you.